portraiture. In this video, we will look at how to establish accurate facial proportions and applying them to head tilt. The portrait on the left I drew from a selfie in which I'm looking directly ahead with little expression. The film on the right illustrates my animated and more natural self, showing how capturing the turn and tilt of a head describes more of a person's personality and mood. There are multiple techniques to establish facial measurements. What follows is a demonstration of a combination of the basic techniques that I and my students have found most useful. Start with an egg shape, pointy end down. Draw a vertical line through the centre and then a horizontal line at halfway. Divide the bottom half into 5 equal parts. Add a final horizontal at the same spacing above the halfway line. Now quarter the mid-horizontal line. Centre the eyes on the quarter marks and sit them slightly high of the line. The tip of the nose extends 2 spaces down and the mouth at 3 spaces. Place the brows at the line above the eyes and have a bit of a think about how the features interact. The ears extend from the brow line to the tip of the nose. The neck extends from a line originating at the outer edges of the eyes, and it is helpful to draw in shapes for shoulders, chin, cheeks and temples. Profile uses the same horizontal measurements, adding a jawline to the base of the ear and a circle describing the back of the skull. Add nose, brow and eye, mouth and chin to the same measurements as the front view. Add the neck and mark in cheeks, temples, etc. Being familiar with these rules of thumb simply means that when faced with a real live human being, you will recognise their individuality through gross and subtle differences. Okay, so the shock value is just an added bonus to this demonstration of how the aforementioned measurements work in 3D. You can see as I move my head how the measurements alter and interact at different angles. If you include these lines as part of your underdrawing, you will find features are much more accurately placed to the individual likeness you are trying to capture. The chopsticks represent how you can use a point on one facial feature to figure out the accurate placement of another. They're also quite good at demonstrating the basic planar change between cheek and front of face. In this exercise, you will be drawing on photocopies of photographs of people's heads. This is to become familiar with critically assessing the placement of features. Obviously, gender, race, age, and genetic and environmental factors all contribute to forming our faces, and this is not about looking for conformity, it's about celebrating difference. This is Will Smith, Compared to our established standard proportions, Will has a long, narrow head that is of consistent width. He has a short philtrum, a deep chin, jaw, and smallish ears. His direct gaze, which could be confronting, is softened by a slight upturn at the corners of his mouth. Meryl Streep has a head tilt, which makes her appear welcoming, even empathetic. Her eyes are a little close together and nose a touch longer than the averages we've established. She also has a high hairline, which we haven't talked about, but is another comparable trait. Barack Obama has his head slightly raised, which you can see reflected in the curvature of my measured lines. He has fine features, regularly placed, except for slightly close eyes and larger than average ears. Patrick Stewart's head is tilted slightly downward. His eyes sit high on his face with a correspondingly smaller forehead, and his earlobes are long, which is something that happens with aging. Knowing these measurements, though a little generalised and clumsy, when combined with some knowledge of what's happening in the underlying physiology and how to observe and overlay planar changes, will ultimately, with practice, improve your portrait drawing exponentially.